Hello, I am Xarkun, this is World of Warships Legends, and today I've got a wild game for you on the map Shards. It's a domination mode game, and we are in the legendary Soviet destroyer Khabarovsk. This is going to kind of be a follow-up video to my Kaba Tank video from the other day, because it does also demonstrate the tankiness of this ship, but more importantly, it demonstrates the role that luck can play in a game. And luck is not something you want to rely on to win. Unfortunately, that is what is going to happen to us. We are going to have to rely quite a bit on luck to win this game, because we're going to play very wildly and very recklessly. Now, there's a Yamato outside of this alpha cap, and we know that there's a destroyer in this location because we are located. It is, in fact, the enemy Gearing, who is obviously running Twist and Track on his build. Now, I thought initially that I could get into this cap, even with my terrible concealment, and potentially torpedo the Yamato, but I'm spotted immediately. So I probably should have turned to the right and gone around that island over there, but I don't. I go out forward thinking that I could get some torpedoes on the Yamato, and I absolutely can, but now I have nowhere to hide and nowhere to disengage. The Yamato sees me, he is shooting the high explosive, which is terrifying, and he is going to hit me. Luckily, he doesn't get the best hit in the world, and now we're sailing away from him, but there's a Worcester and a Baltimore in front of me, and a Gearing to my side. Now, the Gearing, he's going to shoot at me, and he's going to find he's not doing a lot of damage on my 50 millimeters of armor. I'm also not doing a lot of damage on him, because I think he has 20-something millimeters of armor on the side of his ship, which means if I switch to the armor piercing, I'm going to get full penetrations, as you can see. And therefore, I'm going to take away a lot more of his hit points. I've taken away so many, in fact, that he's decided he needs to disengage and smoke up. But I've got big problems out here to the port side of my ship. There's a Worcester and a Baltimore. Luckily for me, both of them are oblivious to my presence, otherwise there's no way I would still be alive. In fact, I've played this so recklessly that I probably should be dead. I should be dead if these guys had the awareness necessary to play their radar cruisers according to, their biggest role, which is deleting destroyers. Luckily, the Worcester is taken down by my teammates. The Baltimore is not aiming at me. Switch to the AP momentarily. Look at that. We get a good result. Nearly 6,000 damage. But we're switching back to the HE. Baltimore is about to be behind that island. And there's a Z-23 shooting at me, along with the Gearing behind me, who continues to fire at me from inside of the smoke screen. Even so, both this Z-23 and this Gearing combined are not going to be able to take me down here. Kind of waiting for the Z-23. The Gearing is having a hard time hitting me with his very floaty American shell arcs. The further I get from him, the more difficult it is for him to hit me. I don't have the same problem because, of course, I have the Soviet ballistics, which means my shells are quite easy to aim at range. Trying to take down the Baltimore, but doesn't look like I need to. Our Atago B finishes him off. Yamato has pushed all the way through the cap circle. In a very reckless play of his own, he's approaching 3 friendly ships, plus me, launching torpedoes at him, hoping to finish the job I started on this ship for a bit of a consolation prize, opening up with the HE, start a fire on the second salvo, and that is going to be enough to send the enemy Yamato to the bottom of the sea before our torpedoes even reach him. Now, this side of the map is clear of any conspicuous surface ships, but 2 destroyers were last spotted in the general area. The gearing is still around, and any second now, somebody is going to start flipping the alpha cap. Notice 5 minutes into the game, we have 100,000 damage done, which is quite a lot, and nobody actually controls a cap circle yet. But there is a ship in alpha trying to flip it for the enemy team. Luckily for us, we have a Cleveland off to our port side, and he is going to use his radar, which will reveal an enemy Shimakaze. Now the Cleveland is going to open fire on the Shimakaze, who smokes up in a panic. Now that smoke is really going to help him from radar, but I'm also going to add my own shots at the Shimakaze. Cleveland gets a nice opening salvo. I disable one of the Shimakaze's turrets, which is not quite as valuable as disabling his engine. But then the Shimakaze disappears. Whether he gets out of the Cleveland's radar range or the radar simply runs out, I don't know. In any case, I'm located again, which means that the gearing is the closest enemy ship to me, and I am going to have to be careful. I lost a lot of hit points in the beginning of this battle, far too many hit points. So I need to play a lot more carefully now, and I need to take this cap circle. Taking this cap circle is what is going to help us win if we are able to win this match. Now, we are ahead on points, but not by much, and we are ahead on ship count, but only by 1. If you've ever played World of Warships Legends, if you played it extensively enough, you know that being ahead by a couple points this early on in the match and by 1 ship, things can change very, very quickly, and they can change in a way that isn't favorable to your team. However, we have secured the alpha cap. Looks like we have a friendly battleship in the Bravo cap, and I don't think that Z-23 is still hanging around over there, so I believe he's going to be able to flip that cap. And at this point, I have a choice. Do I go after the gearing and the Shimakaze, or do I head toward B? It looks like my teammates behind me are going to turn toward B, and so I'm going to go with them. Now, I do fire my guns in order to get detected. I was hoping that being spotted would encourage either the Shimakaze or gearing to shoot at me with their guns, but it doesn't. They aren't fools. They don't want to be spotted with a Cleveland so near them. Plus, I think that enemy ship, or that friendly ship rather, directly behind me, that legendary cruiser, is a Worcester, who's also very dangerous to the Shimakaze and gearing. Now, though, I am located, which means, once again, I am the closest ship to that gearing. And he is chasing me at this point. So I've got him behind me, and I've got a Tirpitz in front of me, kind of caught in a bit of a pickle. The Khabarovsk is a very conspicuous destroyer, and so the gearing gets close enough to spot me. He only needs to be within 6.9 kilometers of my ship to do that. So figuring I have nothing left to lose, I begin to open fire on this Tirpitz, and with that fire skill on Trubetskoy, well, it's very easy to light fires, so immediately we get one on the Tirpitz. Now, of course, he is angry about this, so he's going to aim at me and shoot. His guns are disturbingly accurate. They do hit me. Looks like one of the shells, though, might have caught the angled 50mm armor plate and bounced, which is something that you can do with battleship caliber shells. However, it is not a reliable strategy. You don't want to try to angle against battleship caliber armor piercing. More likely than not, you'll just get deleted. Instead, if you sail away from the ship, it becomes a little bit harder for them to hit you, and so the Tirpitz misses. Now, the gearing has smoked up behind me. I don't have a lot of hit points left, though, and if I stop firing my guns, I will go unspotted. Should sail away from the gearing's smoke screen to get further away from him, and I do go unspotted. Unfortunately for me, the Tirpitz still had me in his sights, and he is able to finish me off, ending my participation in this battle. But this battle is not yet over. you can see that the enemy team has overtaken us on points. But we did have a friendly destroyer, the last one on our team, hanging out around the Charlie Cap, and he has just succeeded in flipping it. Plus, another enemy ship has gone down, and so we are ahead on points, and we control all 3 capture circles. Thanks in part to me flipping Alpha, the battleship flipping Bravo, and the final remaining friendly destroyer flipping Charlie, I believe it is a Kagero, we are set up quite well. As long as the enemy team doesn't take down too many of our ships and doesn't capture any more capture circles, we are going to be able to build on our massive points lead, or we're going to be able to make our points lead a lot more massive, which is good. Unfortunately, the Cleveland goes down to the combined fire of an Edinburgh, a enemy battleship of some kind, not sure what it is, and it's a Massachusetts, and he had torpedoes coming his way from, I think, the gearing. Right after that, the friendly Alaska goes down, leaving only a Massachusetts, an Odin, and the friendly Kagero left versus 5 enemy ships, 3 of which are destroyers, so they have a distinct advantage. Ideally, I wouldn't have played so recklessly in the beginning of this game, and I would still be alive with a fair amount of hit points left. If that were the case, I would be able to help influence the outcome of this match. But since I'm dead, I have to rely on my team to win this for me. Now, they are set up quite well, but somebody is inside the Alpha Cap flipping it, so they're going to take away our 3-cap advantage. And while things aren't looking good for this enemy Massachusetts, he's probably going to go down to the combined firepower of the friendly Massachusetts and the Odin. Plus, he's got Kagero torpedoes coming up on his tail there. But, surprise, the Kagero torpedoes luckily find the Z-23 and take him down. And then the Massachusetts goes down, which means it is 2 versus 3. 2 battleships and 1 destroyer on my side versus that enemy gearing and that enemy Shimakaze. It was a stroke of blind luck that the Kagero's torpedoes found that Z-23. Had they not hit him and killed him, then I think the enemy team might have had a better shot at winning this. As it stands, there's not really enough time left in the game for them to win on points. At least I don't think there is. They would have to flip all 3 of the capture circles and hold them for the entirety of the game, and even then, I don't know that they would overtake us on points in the time that they have remaining. So they need to kill all of our ships. And would you look at that? Gearing torpedoes come out of nowhere, hit the Kagero, and send him to the bottom of the sea. A little bit of comeuppance or karma for the Kagero, who gets dispatched in exactly the same way he took down the Z-23. That means it's a Massachusetts and an Odin versus a Gearing and a Shimakaze, both of which are pretty good torpedo boats, the Shimakaze especially. All these guys have to do to win is sink both of these enemy battleships, and since they are destroyers, they have every advantage in the world when it comes to doing that. They aren't going to be spotted unless they make a terrible mistake, or unless they want to be spotted. So all they have to do is torpedo this Massachusetts and this Odin to death, and they win. And that is the big, big problem with how we played so recklessly in this battle. We are not alive. If we were, we would be able to help the Massachusetts and the Odin a lot more. But as it stands, we have to rely on them. Luckily for us, the Gearing and Shimakaze only have less than a minute left to sink both of our friendly battleships. So if they're going to do it, they need to do it now. And there are the Gearing torpedoes coming at an unfavorable angle for the Gearing. And so only 2 are going to hit the Massachusetts, not going to be enough to kill him. Enemy Shimakaze goes down, but not before he launches a wall of skill at the Odin, which beats him back to port in a disgusting, gratuitous way with all those nuclear missiles that the Shimakaze launches. But it's just the Gearing versus the Massachusetts. Gearing with a long torp reload, no hope of reloading before the game ends, and he's not going to be able to take the Massachusetts out with his guns. So we are going to win the match. But our winning the match has a lot to do with luck and a lot to do with capture circles, which is why I and a lot of other people always say to take the capture circles in domination mode games. They are the most important. Now, we do top the leaderboard with 3,000 base XP, so the game thinks we played a pretty good game. However, I would not recommend playing your destroyer as recklessly. You want to be alive for as long as possible, so you can exert your influence over the entirety of the match and not just half of it. So keep that in mind as you take your destroyers out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.